I was expecting the Western Conference to be an outright bloodbath and bitter fight to the death for playoff seeding. What we ended up receiving was a shit show. Soap operas, boys clubs, brutal agony, squad still thinking it's 2013. That's what the West has brought to us. As so many teams desperately try to eliminate themselves from playoff contention, let's take a deeper look at all of them. If you ever wanted to witness the gradual construction of a Lolcow, day by day, brick by brick, just take a look at the Anaheim Ducks. A team that has been carried by John Gibson for so long that I'm surprised he hasn't needed back surgery yet. What I see is not a forward-thinking organization, but a group that has its head so far up its ass that they still believe it's 2007. A team with 12 straight losses and glaring flaws up and down the lineup, but there is fuck all being done to acknowledge them. Bob Murray, I have several questions for you. Why hasn't Randy Carlyle been fired yet? Why hasn't Randy Carlyle been fired yet? And most importantly, why the fuck did you rehire Randy Carlyle in the first place? Oh right, because you need a buddy to smoke cigars with. Remember, it's not your fault that the Ducks are a shit show, it's those pesky fans and players that are the problem. Go and rearrange those deck chairs, that's really going to mask the infection spreading rampantly. The Arizona agony is one of eternal irrelevance and forgettability. The Coyotes are once again struggling to get themselves out of the basement. They are the equivalent of Marian Hosa's gunk, unwanted and irritating. Don't worry guys, you have a legitimate excuse for it this time. The entire team is wrecked on a level not seen since Leningrad. Brad Richardson, injured. Antti Ranta, he's injured indefinitely. Christian Dvorak, injury. Michael Grabner, Jesus Christ, the eye? New acquisition Nick Schmaltz, season-ending injury. Jason Demers, unit fucking lost. Those are a lot of big pieces being sacrificed to the merciless hockey gods. Of course, they pick on the team struggling to find an identity or a permanent arena solution. The fortunate thing is with how pathetic the West is this year, there is still a chance to make it to the playoffs. Their penalty kill is ridiculously strong too. I mean, that's hopeful, right? The Flames are a really hard team to crack this time around. Seemingly tired of perennial underachieving, Calgary has played up to its potential with quite possibly the best top six in all of hockey. Johnny Gaudreau, him and his miniature stature lighting up the net with a regularity not seen since days of Iginla. That's not to dismiss the contributions of guys like Matt Tkachuk or Sean Monahan either. The top four on D, very strong as believed when they were assembled. Bringing in Lindholm and Hanifin has been a boon. In net, there are two words that bring relief to Flames fans. David Riddick. Even with this bounty of riches, I'm still not sold on them yet. My issue is that they still have the depth of a shallow pool. They haven't been able to do much with their bottom six or third defensive pairing. Nothing's gelled on that front. James Neal has been a flop and Sam Bennett, well, that's par for the course for him. One stiff breeze could derail this whole operation and there isn't much to replace them with. Pray for help. You're gonna need it. Did you like breaking the curse of Dollar Bill and forging one of the finest dynasties of the decade? Well, it's the time of the service where the hockey gods demand tithes for the fortune you have received. The Blackhawks have tried to escape it for years, but now it's finally caught up to them. The tax collector has come for his due. The cost comes in the form of awful long-term contracts like the declining Brent Seabrook and Duncan Keith. It comes with a Corey Crawford dealing with an array of unfortunate and unlucky injuries. It comes with a Stan Bowman dumpster diving in Europe hoping he hits the jackpot with another Panarin. This team is a mess, there's no denying it. When one has to deal with the horror show of Cam Ward in net, no amounts of DeBrincat or Yoka Harju will rectify it. The final cost of it comes in your head coach. Coach Q axed due to losing a power struggle with Bowman. Stan had been sniping him for years and now he finally got the headshot. It's gonna be a long road to rebuild, even with Patrick Kane. Just don't develop into a boys club like most in this situation. Colorado, what the hell to say about you other than holy shit, they might have the best first line in the world. It's the only thing keeping them relevant at this point in time, but it's always a treat to watch McKinnon, Rantanen, and Landeskog work their magic. But even then, the Avs are still a team with massive issues that need addressed immediately. Just like many teams in the West, they also have fallen apart as of late. The goaltending, a supposed strength of the squad coming into the year, has been Humpty Dumpty falling off the wall. Odd, I figured Philip Grubauer was going to help them, not prolapse. The special teams have been special as of late too. Not in the good way either. For the standard of Colorado, they also have a total lack of team depth. A lot of pieces struggling to fit into the system. The situation has become critical. They need to fix this and now. I'd say you're in trouble, but then you remember you have Ottawa's first round pick and relax just a tad. Maybe. Tonight, on The Fault in Our Stars. A struggling team still on a playoff spot is telling Eugene Melnick to hold his drink, for the real drama is in Dallas. In what could be one of the more spectacular clown shows in the NHL, the CEO of the Stars has decided to take matters into his own hands by means of grandstanding to the media. Not by a call to action, but in taking a Texas-sized shit on two of his best players. Yes, Mr. Lights, it's Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin who are at fault for the team being uninspired dreck. They're not leading hard enough. May I present to you bigger reasons for your team sucking. Valerina Chushkin laying a no-goal leg as a so-called sniper. Martin Hansel turning into peanut brittle. Jim Nilfer assembling a one-line pony while the rest of the team plays passenger. You know what I find to be fucking horseshit, Jim Lights? The fact that you blame the players for the culture of mediocrity in your organization. Do you know who's most responsible for such a culture? The people at the top of the food chain. You're the one at fault for enabling this malaise. Now fucking own it like a good little boy and piss off to your luxury suite. I figured Cap L would result in the Oilers having to ship off key pieces to save their bacon. In reality, the Cap L they are experiencing is a world where they are stuck in neutral. They can't do anything without a lateral move. How are those Lucic and Russell contracts treating you now? To be fair, Lucic has been... by God have mercy. This team is literally 3 players. Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. The rest of the team are the equivalent of the Tarsans. Sluggish, ugly, and fossilized. The only positive revelation has been a completely unsustainable goal bonanza by Alex Chiasson. What else would you choose? The dog shit or the dog shit? Such choices. At least they saw the real issues and fired Todd McClellan. His failure has been replaced with... Ken Hitchcock? Does that dude ever stay retired? The sad reality is that they're within striking distance of a playoff spot thanks to the 3 amigos. They could be brought into the postseason kicking and screaming thanks to the wonders of high-end talent. You know what this calls for? Trading McDavid's best friend for the guy that broke his collarbone? Chiarelli, what the fuck are you doing, man? Apparently a future involving being fleeced by Garth Snow on the unemployment line. The rest of the NHL weeps. No, Kings, it doesn't matter that your office's clocks have been broken for years. It's still not 2012. Remember this date. The Kings have assembled their roster with this in mind. Old men on top of old men. The moldy bread of Dion Phaneuf with a slimy ham of awful contracts, and add in some broken, wilted lettuce and Ilya Kovalchuk and Carl Hagelin. Yes, there is some youth sprinkled around, but none of it is the impact talent they truly need. Like the Blackhawks, the time has come for the Kings to pay up for their success earlier in the decade. The only difference is that management made it worse with a few more awful contracts. In an effort to shake things up, John Stevens was given the boot out the door and replaced with Willie Desjardins. Nothing screams we're giving up on the season more than this move. I hear laughter in the distance. It's all from Vancouver. I would tell you to react to it, but like the team, you're too slow. There are a few words that come to mind when describing the Wild. Bland, uninspired, milquetoast. Those are adjectives that should cause concern when relating to a hockey team. There's nothing here that I feel is going to take them over the top, and I'm afraid the fans know it. So you may make the playoffs. For what? The privilege of getting walloped by Nashville or Winnipeg? I know I'll hear the arguments that Zach Parise is having a renaissance season, but then I'll counter by saying Matt Dumba's out long-term with a hand injury. Most players are having meh seasons, and that's just not good enough. Minnesota's in a tough situation. They don't have anywhere near enough to compete for a cup, but the contracts they've given out will prevent them from any thoughts of tanking or a rebuild. They signed Parise and Suter in the hopes of no longer being irrelevant, but they're very close to flirting with it again. It's their eternal punishment for that one day in 2012. The Predators are one of the few teams in the Central that hasn't totally shit themselves this season. Looking up and down the roster, there would be something seriously wrong if they were. The Big Four on defense humming along as usual, a bevy of talent on the top 6, but the Preds still aren't in optimal form. Kyle Turris has struggled to find his place in Smashville. It's kind of like a situation with Brassard in Pittsburgh. Talented players just on the wrong team. Worst comes to worst, he at least helps shore up the team depth. If there's a weakness on the Preds, it's their third pairing on D, but they're usually sheltered by the Big Four. Like many of the good teams, their biggest tests will come in April and May. The playoff boogeyman still needs to be shed to solidify their legacy. And perhaps not dealing with another injury wave. Then they will forever be too good right now. As expected, the San Jose Sharks are performing at a level above and beyond most of the NHL with the talent dripping off the pan. It took a bit of time for everything to gel together, but now the Sharks have been on fire as of late. Erik Karlsson, free from the chains of Ottawa, finding great form just in time for a contract year. Timo Meier enjoying a career year alongside other revelations on the ice. Jumbo Joe may not be the player that he once was, but he's got that likable old guy feel that makes you want him to get a cup. Yes, he can also still perform decently. These boys can roll 4 lines on you, and those are the teams that can go far come cup time. Thus lies the final challenge for the Sharks. getting over the hump. Sharks fans have always pined for next year for about a decade now. Well, this is probably your best shot at it in some time. Tell your goaltending to step their game up a little bit and you should be good to go. Wait, how many goals have you given up over the past few weeks? Jesus, get your defense in order too. Even by Blues standards, this has been a punch to the gut. Despite their attempts to bolster the forward core with talent, the only result of such movement has been horrible pain. Disappointment after disappointment litter the year with blown leads aplenty. Jake Allen is still the epitome of inconsistency, heir to the side of trash. The defense is a massive dud as all physicality vanishes and Jay Bouwmeester ages by the day. Vladimir Tarasenko slumping in production when the league is becoming offensively driven. Mike Yo-Yo given the Golden Boot as coach for Craig Berube. He hasn't been able to get anything out of St. Louis besides more misery. Players openly fighting each other in practice. Grumblings of dismantling the core spread like wildfire. Even as they are within fighting distance for the playoffs, more agony awaits with every passing day. Don't worry, Blues fans, everything is going to be okay. It's not because of Jordan Binnington's strong start in net either. You got a puppy. Everything is always better with puppies, especially slow-burning tire fires. That poor dog doesn't realize their pain has just begun. It took a bit, but the Canucks seemed to be fully embracing the rebuild instead of the half-in, half-out measures they had been doing for a few years. It's strange to see, but it's in their best interest. Nothing is expected of them, but they have a really interesting team to keep an eye on. We are beginning to see the formation of a promising core, one that may bring them back to get revenge on Game 7's past. Vancouver, may I introduce you to the new face of your franchise, Elias Pettersson. He is the Swedish god that can anchor a top line for at least a decade. With him, Besser, and Horvat, there are pieces to build around. The rest of the team may be a mess thanks to Benning's past sins and prospects not being ready yet, but the Canucks aren't as much of a punchline these days. Now may be the time for atonement. To be safe, I'd only release Jim Benning from his cage on draft day. For the love of God, keep him away from July 1st. Things were looking like a regression to the mean in the beginning, albeit partially due to elements out of their control. From what I can decipher, they had decided that fuck it, we're Vegas and we're still in this damn thing too. To hell with the injuries we've been dealing with all year long, here's a nice dose of Alex Tuck. Otherwise, not much has changed. Analytics still love them, even if guys like William Karlsson aren't as great as they were last season. The key for a return to the Cup final for Vegas is to get healthy, and just stay that way. Despite nice performances by guys like Brandon Peary, they can't rely on random plucks of ass saving forever. It's time to step up to the crap stable, Knights. Bet on black. The last team to go over in the West is also one of the few that are looking like legitimate Cup contenders as well. Even with Connor Hellebuck's disappointing season and Patrick Laine's unprecedented slump, the Jets have enough in their stockpile to keep up the winning pace. Thank the gods for Mark Scheifele. I wish I could say the same for Nikolai Ehlers and Dustin Byfuglien, but the aforementioned hockey gods deemed otherwise. Winnipeg, like a few other teams, are in a situation where the best time to win a cup is this year. Come this offseason, the Jets get to experience happy-go cap crunch. Patrick Laine needs to be paid. Kyle Connor needs to be paid. Jacob Trouba will be demanding a huge payday. Tyler Myers needs a new contract. And those are just the bigger names. There are plenty more that are expiring as well. It's time to show us what you are, Winnipeg. Champions, or those that run out of gas before the finish line. For the Eastern Conference vid, I stated that I wasn't going to make a prediction on playoff spots for the rest of the year. I'm not even going to try to pretend I know a thing about the future of the West. The last 3 playoff seats are literally anyone's to claim. This conference is a train wreck, but it makes for some compelling material at least. Thank the hockey gods for this wonderful bounty.
I guess what target are you going to go for first? There's a lot of...
I don't know if I can pick. I'm going to look probably the lights come on. There you go.
Shoot at the ugliest face. Five-hole.
Yeah.
Blue.